Hello, and welcome to the Architectural Post-Production Fundamentals series. In this series we'll be going through the key elements that result in a good architectural image. These elements, however, are not rules set in stone, but can sometimes be interpreted in your own way. Following these advices will usually result in a good overall image. Now, let's begin. We'll begin in the same way every architectural image begins, by taking a shot or setting up the camera. Composition is very important, and can easily make or break your image. There are multiple rules known for photographers. The rule of thirds is one of the more well-known photography rules, and it's always a good place to start. While it is basic, it is also quite effective. Basically, it is applied by pointing the intersections at important elements, while also aligning other important aspects along the lines. You shouldn't just blindly point these intersections at your focal points and expect a good result. You need to have a good sense of composition by also allowing room for the building to breathe, so a balance between solid and void is very important when applying this rule. A good trick to know when taking exterior shots is to place your camera at around eye level, which is usually around 1.8 meters, or 5 feet and 11 inches. And also aligning the bottom third with the horizon line. This gives the viewer a comfortable angle to view the building, and won't make them feel like they're looking at either the ground or the sky. Similarly, when taking bird-eye views, you can also align the upper third with the horizon. Let's look at other examples. As mentioned earlier, these rules are malleable. In this image, for instance, the horizon line is not lined with the bottom third. That idea is ignored in favor of providing more breathing room, and aligning the two parts of the building with the two lower intersection points. The photographer here breaks the rule on purpose. Had the image looked like this, it would have followed the rule perfectly, but it doesn't need to. The reason for this is because the building has a good balance between solid and void, but it does it in a different approach. That's because the solid space is taking exactly 75% horizontally, and it balances that by making the void space do the same vertically. Let's look at some other quick examples before we move on to the next rule. The rule of thirds can also function well with interior shots. In this image, the column and the person are both aligned with the vertical thirds, while the opening in the roof is centralized to create breathing room. Notice that while the horizon isn't at the bottom third, the edge of the floor is. In this image, the vertical line on the right intersects with the focal point of the image, the large glass panel, while the vertical line on the left intersects with the building in the background, and with the entrance below it. Notice that the building in the background also acts as breathing space in this case, since it is not as visible as the main building. As for the final image, all four intersections are important. 2 intersect with the building, while the other 2 intersect with the bridge and the void space. The next rule has 2 important components: 1-point perspective and hierarchy. It is achieved by placing the camera perpendicular to the building right in front of it. This makes the building centralized in the image, and causes it to be in 1-point perspective. This type of image is best suited when your building has the greatest hierarchy, meaning that there isn't much else to distract the viewer from the building. In this image, the building is right in front of the camera, and it is very obvious that it's the main focus of the image. It's quite unique in this setting, and it will most likely be the first thing the viewer looks at. The greatest purpose of 1-point perspectives is that it causes all the lines in the image to lead the viewer's eye to one specific spot, the building. Here are 2 more examples where the building has the greatest hierarchy. There is nothing to distract you from looking at these buildings. In this image, the building is taking the entirety of the screen, and anything that might distract the viewer is faded by fog and blocked by landscape, such as the buildings in the background. Since we're already on this image, I would like to directly hop into the next rule, which is leading. We've talked briefly about it. It entails blocking unimportant or distracting elements to lead the viewer's eye to what's important. In this case, the landscape is placed purposely to create a composition that forces the viewer to look in the middle of the screen, Accompany this with the one-point perspective, and you'll have a powerful combination. Here's another image where the hierarchy is very prominent. The building is quite hard to miss. The fish are the only elements that might distract the viewer, so if it were me, I would have had them removed. Nonetheless, the composition here is very good as well. Another method to lead the viewer's eye with composition is through values. The elements near the camera are quite dark, even though they're in your face. You don't really look at them. The viewer will look at the bright and colorful background instead. This is a very good method to use when you have a lot of images and you want to keep things fresh. I'd like to give 2 last advices. Firstly, I recommend keeping the vertical lines of the building vertical in the image, like in this example. I only recommend not doing so when you're going for an extreme angle when capturing towers or skyscrapers, like in this image. Lastly, don't be afraid of getting up close and keeping things simple. It is always important to experiment and to find your own style. That's all from me for the time being. I hope that you've learned something new. Until next time.